Hi, this is JJ Legal. So, as promised, I am bringing you the legal wins for the people and L's for the Trump administration to counter all the news that you might have been seeing that's just jarring. So, what happens is the Trump administration does these crazy executive orders and acts and lawsuits and filing all sorts of stuff, but rarely do people follow up. So, I do that for you. I am in the dockets and I'm helping you understand the various different lawsuits that are filed and keeping up with them so you don't have to. So if you're interested in that, I want to invite you to like, comment, follow, share this video, and share this account because I do this on a regular basis. It's been a while though, so there's lots of them. I have 14 wins for you today. Are you ready? Let's get started. First, you should know that a lot of these are preliminary injunctions, meaning that the court cases continue, but the plaintiffs have asked for an immediate relief in a form of a preliminary injunction blocking Trump's actions because one, more likely not, they'll succeed on the merits, and two, there's going to be harm if they don't block their actions. So the first one is National Endowment of the Humanities. Trump administration just deleted a bunch of grants based on anti-DEI, which Judge Colleen McMahon, a Clinton appointee, stated, and she's from the Southern District of New York, that it was viewpoint discrimination, that it violates the First Amendment. Some of the grants were removed or rescinded simply because they were issued during the Biden administration, which violates the First Amendment, freedom of association. He said, the discretion on who you give grants to cannot mean you can violate the First Amendment. So you got to put back those grants. So that's a win. As I said in the previous video, Judge Emmett Sullivan, another Biden appointee, stopped the Trump administration from removing the database that had been created and by Congress in 2022, reauthorized and made permanent by a bipartisan act of Congress, meaning Republicans, the majority of the Republicans and Democrats voted for this bill into law. And because Russell Vogt wants to do whatever they're doing and try to sneak around and hide and remove grants and just have money apportioned along with the Project 2025 agenda, Judge Ed Sullivan was like, you got to put this grant back. There's no basis for it. It's arbitrary. It's in violation of the law. So return the database. Another win. Obama appointed Judge Indira Talawani blocked the Trump administration previously from denying Medicaid funding from patients that they serve simply because they also perform abortions. It was a one-year ban on any abortion performing entity or health provider from accessing Medicaid funding. And the judge said that it's going to have adverse health outcomes. It's going to lead to unintended pregnancies, reduced contraceptives, increased rise of sexually transmitted infections. And it's also a violation of the equal protection and First Amendment associated rights because it forced non-abortion providing authorities to disassociate from national organizations to continue Medicaid funding. So essentially, if they had partnerships with other health organizations, it caused those health organizations to sever the relationship with Planned Parenthood because Planned Parenthood was tainted by this law. So issued a preliminary injunction, was extended. When then they try this bizarre move of going to a Trump appointed judge, hoping that he would give them a preliminary sort of like opinion saying that it's okay for them to invalidate the various different collective bargaining agreements that had already been entered into and solidified and signed by the government during the previous administration. Remember, I told you Joe Biden entered a lot of collective bargaining agreement because going out, he knew the risk that Donald Trump could possibly come back, and he knew he was going to do this. So Dark Brandon lives again. Anyway, so they were hoping that Judge Alan Albright would tell them that they could do this, to which the judge was like, that's not how this works. Like, that's going to open up a Pandora's box, he said. He said that there was no demonstrated legally cognizable injury in fact. Like, how are you hurt? Like, why are you coming here? And it doesn't make sense. And he says the courts have never exercised jurisdiction of approving a federal decision in advance. It's preemptive and it's just, what? Get out of here. So, no, we're not going to green light and rubber stamp your lawlessness, even if you appointed me. Before I get to the immigration cases, you might know that Donald Trump sued the Wall Street Journal for $10 billion because of its series of articles revealing that Ghislaine Maxwell had put together a book for Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday, and there was a leaflet, a page that Donald Trump allegedly, according to the report, signed, and he drew a figure in a woman's body, and he said all these things that really, really bad, especially around Donald Trump's trying to distance himself from Jeffrey Epstein, who was a child sex trafficker, and Ghislaine Maxwell, who helped Jeffrey Epstein traffic children, and her herself did some things. She's serving a sentence for the things that she did, not just deliver the children, not just traffic them, actually hold them down, do certain things. So she's a terrible person. And Donald Trump sued $10 billion. Now the lawsuit might just get tossed out because they're sloppy. He just sues. He just does things. They don't follow rules of procedure. They don't find out. So under Florida law, before you sue, you have to give the party, especially if you want to sue a media entity, something like 4 or 5 days heads up notice to give them a chance to retract if they need to. That's Florida law. He didn't give them that notice. They're not going to retract it anyway. But on procedural grounds, that case may die. Speaking of die, he tried to ask for Rupert Murdoch to have to be deposed because he said he might kick the bucket. Whatever. Now, it's probably in Trump's best interest for this case to go away because truth is a defense to defamation and slander. And he really doesn't know what they have. Because even if you get rid of some files, you don't know who took a picture or who has a copy. So it's his best interest to leave Rupert Murdoch alone, who's not necessarily a good person. And my question is, why don't Rupert Murdoch just turn off the propaganda machine that is Fox News that helped us deliver us this monstrosity and albatross that we've had around our neck for 10, 12, 14 years now? It's all Rupert Murdoch's fault. It's Fox News' fault. So turn it off. Better solution. And then I might forgive you, maybe not, for the things that you've done. Anyway, that was a win. Now, let's get into the immigration cases because there are lots of them. Essentially, that's all he does. He doesn't help you get your food prices down. In fact, his tariffs cause them to go up. There's no consumer confidence. The jobs report came out yesterday. There's less jobs. The stock market sort of plummeted on the news that Donald Trump is doing more tariffs and extending them. And there's just the uncertainty. The stock market prefers stability and certainty. And Donald Trump is the most unstable genius. No, not a genius. He's an idiot. Anyway, let's get to the immigration cases. So one of the ones you probably heard in the news was the sanctuary city. Donald Trump essentially the Department of Justice have been filing these against many blue states or blue cities. So they named in their suit the mayor of Chicago, the governor of Illinois, and said that their Welcome City Ordinance and their Illinois Trust Act, essentially their laws that says we're not going to help the federal government carry out these mass deportations. And we have our laws and ordinances say we welcome and support our immigrant community. And the Trump administration sued, to which the Judge Lindsey Jenkins, who is an Obama appointee, Biden appointee judge, said that, you know what, the sanctuary policies, the 10th Amendment, that's a thing. It says that states have their rights to do what they want. She dismissed the case and said it lacks standing. The federal government can't be suing the states for not helping them violate the 10th Amendment. Yeah, get out of here. Of a bunch of people of color from various different countries. So Northern District of California, Biden appointing judge Trina Thompson said in her order, color is neither a poison nor a crime. And she said there was a racial animus linked to the various different countries that they chose to cancel. And the case continues, and she'd stop them from removing these people, canceling their protective status for a certain amount of time. So she just extended it. But what's unique about her extending it is pointing out yet again, this is essentially just a racist policy. When Biden appointee Judge Gia Cobb blocked the Trump administration's practice you probably heard about of dismissing lawsuits, waiting at the courthouses, dismissing proceedings so they can move these folks into a new expedited sort of removal sort of process and procedure, detaining them to sort of kick them out. She said it's a mid-game change rule. These people have played by the rules. They were going on with their trial. And then she says, in a world of bad options, they played by the rules. Now the government has now only closed off those pathways for new arrivals, but changed the games for parolees already here. He also tried to pause the ability for future temporary protective status parolees to even apply. And so she lifted that as well, and said that they don't have the authority to do that. So When thanks, Judge Giacob. So we know that the Supreme Court told the district court judges, the federal judges, that they can't do nationwide injunctions, but can do class certifications. So since then, in a lot of these cases, in the birthright citizenship, for example, in various different jurisdictions, the various different nonprofits representing immigrants and immigrant rights organizations have been going to judges where they already have cases where they've already been issued a nationwide injunction and said, can you do a class? One of them had already been on appeal to the Fourth Circuit, and the Fourth Circuit just sent it right back down to say, now that the class certification is a thing, now it doesn't need to be in front of us. Now that is a win now because essentially it's multiple judges on multiple levels confirming and co-signing the importance of just having the nationwide injunctions, class-wide certifications. We know, I've already previously reported that Judge Jim Boasberg had stated in his last hearings that he plans or is looking into filing complaints against the Department of Justice attorneys that have been making these statements, have been essentially being contemptuous towards him, violating his orders. And even though the case has been paused in terms of his criminal contempt inquiry by the Court of Appeals, it was two Trump appointees did that. He said, I can still do the bar. So their response, Pam Bondi announced this week that they plan to file a complaint. Complaint is based on nothing. Most likely going to lose. Essentially, the judicial judges look after the interests of their judges, and it's a nothing burger. It's for show. It's for the MAGA base. It's to satisfy them. You're going to see the case is going to get kicked out, or you might even see it be appealed, or it's a nothing burger. And here's an update to the alligator Alcatraz case. I told you that Judge Kathleen Williams was the one assigned to the case. Sadly, she's not accelerating it. However, they're having hearing. It's ongoing. One of the things that the Trump administration has done to try to stop or slow down this case, essentially they know they're going to lose, is asked to change venues. The venue and the location of the detention center is in Miami-Dade County. So that's the proper place. That's where the harm is taking place. They've asked for the venue to be changed to Tallahassee, which is the capital of Florida, but saying that's where the decisions are being made. That makes absolutely no sense. For example, if you get an accident in Maryland, it doesn't matter that the person who owns the car is in California. You're going to sue where the accident was, right? That doesn't even make sense. So most likely than not, she's going to retain jurisdiction, but they've asked her to essentially consider whether or not she can keep jurisdiction. They're scared of her, and they're trying to do their best to get the case out of. There is a hearing tomorrow, August 6th, on the environmental groups for an injunction, in which case during this hearing, the judge will consider whether or not to halt construction altogether, because the plaintiffs are saying they want an expedited review based on the fact that 96% of the wetlands is on the site. It's a crucial habitat for Florida's panther and other endangered species. And they also say that the process was rushed. They bypassed environmental law. They say that there was no public involvement, no impact statement, and that they need to reverse the permits and halt further development. And if the judge determines that the venue is correct and she says she needs to pause it, it would be the first time that there was a pause on the facts track of the facility. And I do believe that if they pause this facility because it wasn't rushed, it's going to lay the groundwork for future facilities going forward, especially if the Trump administration does as they normally do in terms of like do not follow the law and process. Like they don't care. They just act and don't care about timing. They don't care about venue. They don't care about the process. They don't care about environmental impact statement, because I think that I don't know is because they're unqualified and they don't do the work, or is it because they're just doing the posture, they're just acting first and figuring, and if they get held back, they get held back, and they really just want to make the moves and make people think they're doing something, and if they get pulled back, they will just blame the judge and the judicial system on getting pulled back, rather than blame the fact that they And
Prefer
move
and
it
move
to
it
the
to
right
the
Central
Central
District
District
of
of
California, I
California,
mean, Florida, where they hope to get a better judge. Who the hell knows? I don't know. But more likely than not, that's a loser. But it is also an attempt to extend the life of this case. I'm going to do a video. You're going to see either it's been published before this video, so look for it there, or it's going to be published after this video when I say I think I figured out the the policy, and I think I figured out the modus operandi of the Trump administration in filing these lawsuits. I don't think they really are interested in winning. Yeah, that's my theory. So check out those videos either before or after this video if you haven't seen it already for that theory. All right, so the last case related to immigration is the LA. You know that we might have heard that a judge said that the ICE's practices of rounding up Latino and Hispanic people on the street based on nothing other than the fact that they're Latino and Hispanic is unlawful because the Fourth Amendment requires a reasonable suspicion. The reasonable suspicion cannot be based just on your race, the fact that you speak a foreign language and you are low income, because that's the type of thing they did to Black people when they targeted Black people in Chicago and New York and other cities just for being Black and the stop and frisk policy. And they had no other suspicion for them doing other crime other than just being a young Black kid. And a judge had said that's unlawful, it's unconstitutional, it's a violation of the Fourth Amendment. So similarly, the case continues while the actions is paused. And a couple of judges asked the Trump administration. So Judge Ronald Gold, who's a Clinton appointee, said, is it a policy of the administration at this time to deport 3,000 persons per day? And Department of Justice Yakov Roth, lying, said, not to knowledge, Your Honor. Lies. So that caused the other judges on the panel to pop up and ask similarly. Yeah, I think there might risk constitutional violation in particular case if you were trying to arrest 3,000 people per day. You wouldn't have time to follow the law. Yet, and during the hearing, the judge pointed out that Stephen Miller says there is a goal of 3,000 per day arrest for the Trump administration. So there's a conflict. So again, I always tell you in the dockets, they say one thing. In front of judges and hearings, they say one thing. When they get in front of Fox News, in front of a TV, on social media, they're popping off and saying something different. And this is an example of it. All right, well, that's all the wins I have for you. There have been other cases filed, and there's a whole bunch. There'll be more wins, but didn't want this video to go too long. But hopefully that satisfied your interest in knowing that when they do these crazy things, they get sued and they get pulled back. It's just a whack-a-mole administration. They're just acting. It's on Donald Trump's whim. There are no guardrails. Kamala Harris warned about this. She said, imagine Donald Trump without the guardrails. This first term, he had people who were a little bit more principled. When he asked to do things that were unlawful, they said no, and some of them listened. He listened. This time, every single thing he's doing, he's just filing lawsuits without giving the proper notice, no evidence whatsoever. The LA County, under the Department of Justice person in charge of LA, had been just rounding up and filing charges against people without evidence whatsoever. And so they're getting tossed out. They're dismissing the laws. They're dismissing the cases against people because they have no evidence. There's no law. So that's because he just does whatever he wants. He's just bullying people, getting people to follow, to succumb. Anyway, I have a whole video about what's going on. I would have printed it before or after. So watch that video. All right. In the meantime, share each one, teach one. I hope this is helpful for you. JJ Legal. That's what I do here. Follow along. Join my private communities. Check out my Know Your Rights cards, or download my case tracker or my templates. All right. Take you. Anyway, meantime, watch this video next. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching this on Instagram or TikTok, you should see playlist above where you're going to see all these things. And yeah, more. Talk to you soon.